Hey everyone, this is Ronan. Welcome back to another DCS UH1 Huey tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to be covering troop transport with Ctld. Now notice this is mostly for multiplayer, but if you install Ctld, which you can do a quick search for DCS Ctld, it does require some scripting and some basic knowledge of how to implement it, um, which I won't cover in this tutorial. I'm covering just how to use it, but you can do it in your own created missions. I'm now in a multiplayer server with Ctld active, and I'm going to show you how to use Ctld and get troops and other things like that. I'm going to walk through some of the concepts and some of the items, but I'm not actually going to go through with everything, just because it involves some sling loading, and I'd really rather not get into that right now. I will admit I am not very good at sling load, so you'll have to look for that help elsewhere. So first things first, the backslash command while you're on the ground will open up your radio menu. I'll show you here, and here's your radio menu. So you have all these options. F10 is the Ctld other item in the menu. That's the one we're going to be discussing today. Everything else has to do with other stuff. So I'm strictly going to be covering, this is more of an advanced concept that's Ctld, but I'm going to be covering just that today. So if we hit F10 in our radio menu, then we have Ctld, CSAR, JTAC status, and missions. I'm only going to be covering this first one, Ctld. I'll be covering CSAR at a later time. So if you hit F1 for Ctld, you have many options here. Troop transport, AA crates, ground forces, Ctld commands, smoke markers, and radio beacons. For the purposes of this first part, we're going to focus on these first four. So if you hit F1 for troop transport, you have various options: unload, pickup, check cargo, and then the different groups you can load. Notice that they do have weights next to them. And if you paid attention on the getting your uh, weapons employment set up for your helicopter, which I have 2-door gunners, um, you should have a broad idea of how much weight you're looking at getting into. Now in the Huey, you really can only fit 6 troops. Um, so they're basically 100 kilograms each. So we can load a standard group and then move them and deploy them somewhere, but we'll get into that in just a moment. First off, you have AA crates. These are the various items that you need for to get an AA crate. And notice some of these say internal. On this version of Ctld, and there are many different variations of the Ctld script out there, but for the server I'm in right now, this is what's available. So the internal means it spawns a crate in front of you that you can then load into the helicopter. Everything else that doesn't have internal is a sling load crate. It basically is a cargo with a net around it and a hook. So the ones with a number next to them, that's how many crates are required to deploy that implement. So an M1097 Avenger, which is a APC with an Avenger cannon for anti-air, requires 2 of those crates to be picked up, moved to a location wherever you're going to have it deployed. It could be, a mile outside the FARP. A lot of servers have limitations where you cannot spawn the crates on the FARP and then deploy the crates. So that's a bit of a hassle. It actually does require you to sling load it. So that the Avenger requires 2 of those crates to be placed in close proximity to each other and then unpacked. And then if we go to ground forces, you have options like artillery, FARP and ammo, light armored, and heavy armored. So light armor has Humvee with machine gun, Humvee with tow, and a JTAC Humvee, as well as an AAV-7 APC that requires 2 crates to deploy. And notice none of those are internal. FARP and ammo, though, however, you can do internal and external. So there's an M818 ammo truck, which is required to refuel to rearm. That's 2 internal crates. And then FARP fuel can be internal or external and requires only 1. It spawns a truck like that one right over there that is a fuel truck. And then FARP crates, those are the crates needed to create a FARP. And if memory serves correct, I believe you need 4 of those in a very close area, and you can build a FARP anywhere. So if we go back, we have artillery, such as the M109, which is a artillery mobilized artillery implement, and MLRS, which is a multiple launch rocket system that requires 2 crates, and then the Smerch HE, pretty much also an MLRS system. And then for the heavy armored, we've got an M2 Bradley, which requires 3 crates, and then the venerable M1 Abrams main battle tank requires 5 crates. It's a lot of sling loading. Wish I could make more of those, but I'm just not good at sling loading. So we'll go back here. Next, we have our Ctld commands in the main Ctld menu, and that is, these have load nearby crate, unpack any crate, drop crate, current cargo status, nearby crates, fobs, and then pack unit for transport. Now that pack unit for transport is if I want to take this fuel truck and move it somewhere by helicopter, you can pack that unit for transport. Basically for the internal cargoes, you want to load nearby crate, and then when you land, you can unload it and then unpack. That's if it requires 1 or more. You need to have the prerequisite number. So for this quick little tutorial, we're going to pick up some troops. And that's how you pick up nearby troops. Let's look at where I'm at. Here on the F10 map, I'm loading up these troops right here, which are coming towards my helicopter. And we're just going to do a quick load and then unload to show you just how the Ctld F10 menu works. Now, when I said earlier you need to hit the / key to operate the F10 menu or the radio menu, while you're airborne, you also need to add another little reminder that that key will not work while airborne. You have to do Alt / to make it work. So we'll look at the outside of our helicopter, and those troops should be coming up here. Of course, this FARP is pretty highly elevated, and there we go. So I've extracted troops from combat. So we're going to take off, and we're going to move these troops a short distance. It's not going to be very far. Now you'll notice versus an empty takeoff and a weighted takeoff that it does require a little more collective input in order to get the helicopter airborne. Now I'm going against what I previously stated with takeoff from hover. That's just because I'm doing this quick little jaunt right over here. We're going to put them down in this grassy area next to this Humvee. Basically, these troops are going to hang out with a Humvee and provide protection at this fob. All right. And you'll notice that when I landed, I'm at an airfield and it has this departure menu that automatically pops up. So I'm going to hit F10 to get rid of that. I'm going to bring up my F10 menu, Ctld, troop transport, and unload troops. And our troops have been deployed into combat. So that's the basics on Ctld. You have to be in a pickup zone for Ctld to load troops. So if I load standard group, it says I'm not in a pickup zone. Now, a lot of these are typically, the pickup zones are near FARPs or fobs that you've set up. If you've deployed a bunch of fob crates and there's a little compound, which if you go into the mission editor and you deploy a compound or something like that, it's a little building that you can deploy that basically becomes a fob. So here we're at the FARP again. We have a FARP tent, a tower, and excuse me, that looks like an ammo truck, not a fuel truck. The fuel point is that concrete surrounded area just to my right. So if we put her down on this helipad here, I'll show you how to spawn a new infantry unit. Let's move to this helipad so we can take off and head out. All right, so we've landed and we hit F10, CTLD, troop transport, load standard group, and we've loaded troops. Now these are just the basics of CTLD, so you know, without sling loading, you can kind of get an idea for how to move troops, and the different troops have different weapon systems. I haven't played around with all of them. I have moved anti-air, and they have stingers equipped, so they can take out enemy air assets. And we come down over here. And we're on a bit of a hill. Try not to wreck it. And CTLD, troop transport, unload troops, and we've deployed the troops from combat. And that's basically how to do troop transport for CTLD. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.